relax, and welcome to the stage Suzanne Brown from REIWA. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thanks everyone. I know it's been a huge day, and I do realise I stand between you and drink, so I'll keep it as quick as possible. Got a lot of slides to get through, so we'll get through these. Good afternoon, I'm Suzanne Brown and the current president of REIWA, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today and provide you with an update on the market and also REIWA's work on behalf of members. So the property market has been in the midst of a perfect storm in the past couple of years, fueled by several factors. The first one is strong population growth, and the rate of growth peaked at 3.4% in the year to September 2023. In the year to June 2024, WA recorded 2.8% increase in population. In the period between 2022 and mid-24, there were over 146,000 net arrivals to the state through interstate and overseas migration. This is about 58,000 new households. This has led to strong demand for homes to buy and also to rent. But the established homes market has finite supply, and we are not building enough homes to meet demand. From mid-2022 to mid-24, about 33,000 new dwellings, including social housing, were completed, which is a shortfall of over 25,000 homes when compared to migration-based population growth. This graph illustrates the problem well. Generally, completions follow the same pattern as commencements, but with a lag. However, the COVID incentives saw a massive boost in approvals. The building industry had been struggling for years and wasn't able to cope with this increase. There were labour shortages and supply chain issues. The cost to build rose significantly and completion timeframes blew out. As you can see, completions no longer mirror commencements. The constraints in the building industry have been driving people towards the established home market. In addition, these constraints have hampered the natural turnover of the rental market, with tenants staying in rentals longer than usual while waiting for their new homes to be completed. Compounding the demand and supply imbalance was the supply imbalance was the exodus of investors from the rental market post-COVID. Our modelling suggests nearly 20,000 investment properties were removed from the rental market since the peak in early 2021. I'll revisit investor numbers and rental supply later. So let's look at the effect high demand and low supply has had on the market. There has been very strong growth in property prices. The Perth median house sale price was $757,750 at the end of February. This is 22.2% higher than the same time last year. The unit market was a little slower to respond to market conditions, but growth also accelerated in the second half of 2024. The median unit price is now sitting at $510,000, up 21.4% on the same time last year. So if we look at active listings, those properties advertised at any one point in time dropped to record lows. There were below 4,000 from December 23 to mid-24, dropping to close to 3,000 for several months last year. This prompted a lot of talk about a shortage of properties for sale, particularly in the media. The data does say otherwise. This slide shows listings coming to the market. The top dashed dark blue line represents the 5-year monthly average of new listings for houses. The bottom dashed brown line represents 5-year monthly average of new listings for units. The solid blue line shows the number of new house listings each month. New listings for sale of houses in 2024 were around the 5-year average. New listings for units, the solid orange line, were 12.5% higher than the 5-year average. This slide tells more of the story. The number of dwelling sales over 2022 to 2024 have been 1.5 to 2 times higher than the average sales between 2017 and 2019. We are clearly selling more properties than in the years pre-COVID. Comparing data more specifically, with 2019 at the end of the downturn, REIWA members sold 49% more houses and 125.5% more units in 2024. So properties are coming to the market in good numbers and sales are up. Why are active listings so low? The answer is in the sheer speed of sales. The high demand for housing is reflected in the massive drop in the median time to sell in the past few years. Over 2024, houses sold in a median of 10 days, units in 11. This is keeping the number of properties you see advertised at any one point in time as low and giving the impression there is a shortage of property. What we are seeing now, the fear of missing out seen for most of 2024 has eased. Members are reporting buyers are being more discerning and taking more time in their purchasing decisions. They are also being more prudent in their spending and borrowing. Properties have still been coming to market in good numbers. New listings are at the highest level in 3 years in the 2024 spring selling season. This gave buyers more choice and reduced the urgency to buy immediately. As a result, we have seen the median time to sell increase. It was 22 days at the end of January. This was a reflection of the usual softer market conditions at that time of year and the change in buyer sentiment. It did drop back to 13 days in February, but it is still 4 days faster than at the same time last year. I will note that while time on market has increased, it is still significantly faster than pre-COVID times when the median time to sell was more than 40 days. I'm sure a lot of you remember those days. So if we take a look now at the rental market, due to the decline in rental supply post-COVID and the strong growth in population, the number of rentals per 1,000 people fell from about 86 when COVID began to a low of 72 in March last year, and it's now sitting around 74. The vacancy rate dropped to record lows, hitting 0.4% in March 2024. It has been below 2% since June 2020 and below 1% between July 22 and July 24. The good news is that the vacancy rate has been rising since then. Declining supply and strong demand have seen house rent prices rise significantly. The median weekly house rent is currently $680, 47.8% above the previous high of $460 set in 2014. The median weekly unit rent is $650. Unit rent prices are up 54.8% on the previous high of $420, also seen in 2014. Like time on market for sales, median leasing days fell dramatically in recent years, sitting around 2 weeks for most of the past few years. Let's look at where the rental market is now. After several years of frenzied conditions, the rental market started to ease in 2024. As we saw on the slide with rent prices, rents have been showing periods of stability. What is of note is the significant decline in annual growth rates. At the end of February, the median weekly house rent price was $680, 4.6% higher than February 24. A year ago, the annual growth rate was 18.2%. The median weekly unit rent price was $650, 12.1% higher than February 24. A year ago, that growth rate was 18.4%. We've seen the vacancy rate increase. It was 2% at the end of January and is now 2.3% at the end of February. The rental market has been easing. There are a few reasons for this. Firstly, there have been changes to demand. Demand has been self-moderating. We are now seeing an increase in the size of tenant households. The difficult rental conditions also saw people choose to buy over renting or choosing to remain in or return to the family home to avoid the rental roundabout. The market also reached an affordability ceiling. Tenants could not afford to keep up with steeply rising rent prices. They either chose to rent with other people to share the cost burden or chose to rent smaller, more affordable properties, which did show an increase in the demand for units. We are also hearing that properties that are over the median rent price are taking longer to lease and that there is discounting taking place. Competition at the lower end of the market generally remains robust. There are other major changes. The other major change has also been an increase in supply. There has been an uptick in the number of estimated rentals with an increase in the availability of existing supply and new supply coming to the market. There's a couple of factors at play here. Some tenants have finally had their new homes completed and are moving out of their rental, which frees up some existing supply. In addition, there has been strong investor interest in WA over the past couple of years, particularly from the East Coast. They're drawn by our relatively affordable housing and potential for strong rental yields. The number of investor loans has been rising over the past few years, as you can see from this slide. As of July, they made up 41.1% of the new housing loans, whereas in December 2020, they only made up 15%. As well as buying established properties, investors have also been buying house and land packages. These new builds are being completed and have since been coming onto the rental market. This is gradually, slowly boosting new supply. Also adding to supply has been the government's incentive schemes to encourage short-stay property owners and owners of vacant properties to transition to the rental market. We appreciate they've taken a positive approach rather than employing punitive measures, as we've seen in other states. The latest update we've received is that over 420 properties have become long-term rentals as a result of these schemes, and every property counts in the market at the moment. It did take a while, but these trends started to show up in the vacancy rate in the second half of 2024. So what are we expecting for the year ahead? Based on current conditions, we expect a 5 to 10% price growth. We expect to see the rental market continue to ease, rent prices to show more periods of stability and lower growth. We expect the vacancy rate to reach equilibrium fairly soon. This doesn't mean that the issues facing the rental market will disappear. So things to watch. The things that we are watching that will impact the market are building commencements, mining, and interest rates. This is one of the key factors underpinning supply. While increasing, building completions are still low and are not mirroring approvals. The concern is not just completions but commencements. The Housing Industry Forecasting Group forecast 15 to 16,000 commencements in 23 to 24 and actually did 14,955. 15 to 17,000 in 2024 to 25, and 16 to 18,000 in 25 to 26. This is well below the 15-year average and the 26,000 homes required under the National Housing Accord. This isn't enough to meet the needs of our growing population. A serious concern is the lack of apartment commencements. Apartments provide housing diversity and affordable options for buyers and for renters. There is a significant lack of new supply, and the projects getting off the ground are in the luxury market. Supply constraints are likely to maintain pressure on the established homes market. So mining drives employment, and employment opportunities drive population growth. As mining investment declined during the downturn, people left the state seeking employment elsewhere. This led to a decline in the demand for property and a drop in property prices. Mining capital expenditure forecasts give an indication of where the industry is headed. Mining capital expenditure is forecast to increase again this financial year. This is good news for the economy and a positive indicator for the property market. However, there is no denying that there are some challenges ahead. Several mining companies have made redundancies and are reducing their operations. Is this going to lead to another downturn? In the short term, we don't think so. There is a significant amount of government investment in construction work already underway across the state, from roads to ports, Metronet to new schools and other infrastructure needed to support our growing population. Many of the job losses from mining can be absorbed in the construction industry supporting employment. In addition, more labour will be welcomed in the residential building industry. Longer term, the changes in the mining industry and the effect on population growth and employment will bear watching, but for now there is enough work to support the economy and the housing market. However, people don't just come to WA for mining. Our relatively affordable housing and amazing lifestyle also appeal, along with the current strong economy and job opportunities. Sorry, you want to take credit for that? Yeah, okay. Inflation has slowed and consumer sentiment surveys show people are feeling more positive. The RBA cut interest rates in February and is expected to cut rates a few more times this year. This will add to people's borrowing capacity and spending power and boost consumer sentiment. However, as said, buyers are being more prudent and borrowing within their limits. So we don't expect to see interest rate reduction lead to a massive surge in property prices. The RBA says it can take 1 to 2 years for changes to interest rates to affect the economy. On this basis too, we think the impact of a rate cut will be seen over time. So just on to some REIWA matters and some projects that REIWA have been working on for members. This month we're proud to launch REIWA's new learning portal. This has been a significant investment for the Institute with the aim of delivering the highest quality online learning environment to our members and students. We've also launched a new booking system for training courses and flagship events to streamline your experience across every touch point. Along with the launch of new courses, new trainers and new venues across Perth and regional WA, we have listened closely to member feedback and transformed our training offering. So REIWA's advocacy team are working on several issues at the moment, and I'll cover a few of these in depth. So the housing issues survey. Housing is a key issue for the WA community and was a focus for the various political parties at the state election. In the lead up to the election, the WA community shared some of their concerns with REIWA's housing issues survey on REIWA.com, and we received nearly 15,000 responses in 3 weeks, which shows the power of REIWA.com. 63% of respondents agreed that stamp duty was a significant barrier to home ownership in WA. 47% of respondents said that they were supportive of raising the first home owner rate of duty to reflect higher property prices. Transfer duty also impacts downsizing, with 63% of respondents agreeing was a significant barrier for people looking to downsize. 71% of respondents to the survey supported a stamp duty concession to enable people to downsize. The survey results reflect REIWA's 2025 election platform to support an efficient and effective WA housing market. This included increasing the threshold for both the first homeowner rate of duty concessions and the home buyer's assistant account, and pegging those thresholds to REIWA's median prices to allow them to move with the market, as well as introducing stamp duty concessions for downsizers to encourage mobility within the market. The data was also used in media releases and a newsletter prior to the election. Following the re-election, the WA Labor Party will continue to work with the government to address these issues, along with other relevant issues. We will also build on using REIWA.com in the coming months and years ahead with targeted local level or issues-based surveys. So a major project that has been our submission and engagement with AUSTRAC regarding proposed anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing reforms. These will come into effect in mid-2026. These reforms will see anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism legislation extended to what's known as tranche 2 entities, such as real estate agents, lawyers, accountants, settlement agents, and dealers in precious metals and stones. The reform will affect agencies as a whole and apply to residential and commercial salespeople and buyers agents. They will not, thank God, apply to property management or commercial leasing. Under the proposed risk-based framework, real estate agents will be required to register with AUSTRAC as a reporting entity, develop an AML-CTF program, undertake customer due diligence, report certain transactions and suspicious activity, and make and keep records in relation to the above. They will have a range of repercussions for agents, additional compliance, including new systems and controls for record keeping, and the process of conducting customer due diligence, which will include greater verification of identity. Additional training, including a compliance officer and training for agents who will be required to conduct due diligence and flag suspicious behaviour. Additional due diligence, agents may need to do due diligence on sellers and prospective buyers. We've been liaising with other REIs and REINZ where they have had anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism laws applying to the real estate industry since 2019. And we made a submission to the Attorney General's Department advocating for a risk-based approach, that the changes not impact the natural course of business, and requested funding for training and for educating the public. REIA and the other REIs have also made submissions. We have also made a second submission regarding the rules that go into more detail about the requirements for real estate agencies to develop an AML-CTO policy and undertake customer due diligence. We have established a working group of members to help guide us through the process of implementing these changes. You can keep up to date with this issue on the members' website. Last year we saw the introduction of the first two phases of the reforms to the Residential Tenancies Act. Phase 1 came into effect in May and saw rent bidding banned and the increase in scope for retaliatory action. Phase 2 came into effect in July and saw rent increases limited to once every 12 months, pets and minor modifications allowed in most cases, and the new Commissioner determination process. Phase 3 will include a streamlined bonds disposal process and is currently expected to come into effect before the end of the financial year. This will see a tenant, landlord or agent can ask for the release of the bond. The bond administrator will notify all of the other parties about the application. If the parties agree, then the bond will be paid. If the landlord and tenants do not agree, the Commissioner for Consumer Protection will hear from both sides and make a decision. The changes will also see the pet bond increase to $350 and be able to be put towards damage. The review of Tranche 2 is expected to occur in mid-2025 and address information landlords and agents must give potential renters before offering a lease, information landlords are allowed to seek from potential renters, seeking minimum standards for rental properties, regulations around maintenance and repairs, renter responsibility for willful damage, and regulating boarding, lodging and room-by-room rentals. The Property Management Network Committee and our members will be providing input in the lead up to these changes. If you have any concerns or recommendations, we would like to hear from you. You can contact REIWA Executive Manager for Policy and Advocacy, Tim Lane. Another major issue we're working on is the effect of the IPLEX Typlex 1050 pipes on the established home industry. IPLEX Profit Typlex 1050 resin polybutylene plumbing pipes were installed in about 12,000 to 15,000 WA homes built or renovated between mid-2017 to mid-2022. And just as a comparison, the rest of Australia, every other state have 15,000 homes spread between them. So you can see WA is the biggest state impacted. A number of these homes have experienced water leaks or bursts. The pipes were deemed to have a high failure rate, prompting the WA government to launch an industry response agreement with the manufacturer and participating builders. The agreement provides remediation measures at no cost to eligible homeowners. Homeowners can also apply to have a leak detection device installed. This device will monitor water usage, turn off the water supply when a leak is detected, and allow the resident to temporarily shut off the water. IPLEX Typlex 1050 pipes are considered a material fact and as such must be disclosed to the buyers and tenants. To help you with your disclosure requirements, we have updated the seller's disclosure statement and rules seller's disclosure statement on REI Forms Live with questions relating to the IPLEX Typlex 1050 pipes. We have also created a notice to buyers annexure that can be attached to offer and acceptance documentation to ensure buyers are made aware of the presence of the IPLEX pipes. For property managers, we have updated the Management Authority to include questions regarding IPLEX piping. We have also created a lease agreement special condition to advise tenants of the presence of the pipes and inform them of their responsibilities for use of the leak detection units. These will be on REI forms soon. We have also created a fact sheet to help you with your conversation with buyers, sellers, investors and tenants. And you can keep up to date with the forms update via the IPLEX advocacy page on our members' website and the news section. So it's been a pleasure speaking with you today and sharing our insights. Before we wrap up, I'd like to invite you to Connect, WA's largest real estate conference, which will be held on the 30th of April at Crown Perth. This is a must-attend event designed to supercharge your career. Highlights include CPD-approved training, inspiring keynote speakers, and this year we're excited to include additional breakout sessions specifically designed for sales, property managers, and leadership. Early bird tickets are still available and you can book via the members' website using our fabulous new booking system. Thank you, and happy to answer any questions if anyone's got any.
Anyone have any questions for Suzanne? One in the back, Ryan?
Your slides come here around the increase in statistics. Is that possible? Is it possible for us to get a copy of it?
Yeah, sure. I've sent them to Emily, so I'm sure she'll.
Yeah, we can circulate those to those that are curious about those things, be sure.
And
Let us know.
anything specific you want out of them, just reach out and we can
Thank you.
facilitate it.